So my name is Javier Benitez. I'm part of the Ondemand team in Colt, part of the architecture team driving SDN and NFV. And well, my presentation today is going to be just to share with you our journey in applying SDN and NFV, trying to get benefits from automation and try to explain what automation means for us. Just very briefly, I mean, Colt is a business-only service provider. We have quite a big asset in terms of optical fiber. Initially, pretty much focused on Europe, but we are really expanding. We are becoming a global operator. Last year, we started a 500 million euro investment for 3 years just to build our new capability that we call IQNet, which is a completely new optical packet network, and expanding our network, our geographies. In fact, we are growing in Asia, building networks in Hong Kong, Singapore, and also we announced we are expanding in the US, where we are just extending the network to 13 cities this year, building up to 30 data centers. So yeah, that's Colt. Okay, so the route to automation. So what's a traditional networking environment that we've been in the past few years? So pretty much manually driven. So if you see the whole cycle between code and service delivery and service assurance, pretty much everything has been manual or require some sort of manual intervention, leading at the end of the day to very long delivery times. I mean, we're talking obviously days, 10, 20, 30 days being traditional delivery lead times. Static services in the sense that a customer would just buy an end-to-end product, and that end-to-end product has a 1 year or 3 year contract, very difficult to change. As I mentioned, end-to-end products with very, very little flexibility. And in terms of development and life cycles of products and capabilities, very much dependent on vendors' life cycles. So where do we want to be? So we want to bring automation by moving to what we call cloud networking. So the model that we want to build, and we have started to do so, is to move from manually driven networks to software-driven networks. We want to see delivery times moving from these 10, 20, 30 days to a few minutes. So really what we call near real-time automation, what we presented with Verizon before, I mean, is an example of that. I mean, this is just the time it takes to orchestrate the network and pretty much orchestrate OSS systems. I mean, that's the reason why it takes 10 minutes and doesn't take 1 minute. It's because you need to talk to different OSS systems, quite legacy at the moment, and this takes time. This cloud networking world needs to come with new commercial models, obviously, that need to adapt. So we are moving from this 1-3 year type of contracts down to 1 hour contract. So commercial models need to be adapted. We want to offer customers a cloud experience in the sense that we don't want them to buy just an end-to-end product. We want them to build their own service based on different components. And in terms of development cycles, what we want to do is by using white boxes, by using commodity hardware, we want to move that to the software domain, obviously, where everything is going to be much quicker. Okay, so how have we approached this in Colt? So we have defined 3 strategic initiatives. So we started back in 2015 with what we call Novitas, which was focused on network orchestration, and in particular in terms of services delivering connectivity on demand. Okay, and this is, later I will explain the offerings that we have here. So this is really live services, real customers consuming this. So this is where we have built the business orchestration capabilities and offered the first on-demand services. The second pillar is what we call Stratos. This is driving our NFV platform. So beyond delivering connectivity on demand, the next step that we are working on is trying to deliver added value services on top of that. And this is what NFV is going to enable us. So we are building an end-to-end NFV platform that starts from the CPE that gets virtualized into our own premises where we will deploy NFV infrastructure to deliver virtualized network services. And the last pillar, which is really the last module that we are adding, that we call Sentio, is for network intelligence. So is just the next step in terms of automation. If you think about it, is trying to bring automation around all the service life cycle management. So introducing artificial intelligence just to get that out of the network. Okay, so what does automation mean for us? So to start with. For us, it means being able to deliver these type of services and capabilities to customers. So we give full control to customers, so customers get really the power of self-provisioning in real-time services through two options, either through a portal or through an API. Fast delivery, I mean, we are talking that this doesn't have any manual intervention, so this is fully automated. So delivery time in a matter of a few minutes. Flexible bandwidth, once a service is up and running, the customer has also the possibility to change the characteristics of that service. So if we consider Ethernet on demand, which is a live product, so customers are able to change the bandwidth, are able to change the VLAN configuration, adding more services on the same port, even ceasing or stopping the service altogether. As I mentioned before, I mean, commercials are in line to that model. So in the model that we have put in place, customers can go down to 1 hour flexibility. So they can just have the service running for an hour. And we will only charge for that particular hour. And in terms of coverage, we want this type of services also to be available across a multi-carrier scenario, and this is what we presented with Verizon. So this is what we are trying to do. We are trying to build some sort of standard APIs that operators can use to extend this type of services beyond just a single operator. So that's really what automation means for us in terms of delivering these capabilities to our customers. Consumption models, as I mentioned, two options for our customers. One is using a portal with a very similar experience as the one you would have in a IT cloud environment, so customers can just go, can reserve ports, then they can create services. In this case, this portal that you see here is for Ethernet on demand, so they can create circuits between ports, they can change the bandwidth on the fly, they can change VLAN configuration, they can stop the service anytime. That's one way of consuming the service. The other way is through an API. Exactly the same functionality. Obviously, the API is what we use with wholesale customers, what we use with other carriers like Verizon, like AT&T and others, in order to exchange this type of and consume this type of services. So what's the platform behind this? The core of the platform is what we call Novitas, is that brain over there. So that's a business orchestrator. That's something that is built in-house, and we continue to follow in this model. So that is really where all the intelligence is. This is where all the modeling is built, where all the commercial model definition is put in place. And this is really the brain that is talking externally to other carriers through hopefully standard APIs when MFLSO we deliver them end of the year. Is talking to public clouds in order to extend this connectivity to cloud terminations. It's also talking to customers through a portal. And then internally is also dealing with two important things. One is OSS. We need to update all our OSS systems as we change the service, but also at the end of the day, we need to orchestrate the network, right? So it's talking to our multi-domain service orchestrator that at the same time is talking to the different domain controllers or domain orchestrators managing a particular domain. There are some areas that are already up and running, so Ethernet on demand, on the packet network, SD-WAN, those are services. In the optical domain, as I will explain, this is work in progress, is part of our roadmap, and NFV as well is being evaluated as we speak. Okay, so is this real? So yes, it is, and we have customers, and it's growing. We have two different propositions. So the first one is what we call on-demand, and this is at the moment Ethernet connectivity on demand, following the model I mentioned before. So either through a portal or through an API, our customers really have full control about creating those services, reserving ports, changing the characteristics of that service on demand. The second proposition is still in this connectivity on demand is our software-defined VPN offering, which is a different use case. Obviously, it's a VPN initially targeting hybrid environments where customers want to use both an MPLS access and an internet access, and being able to intelligently distribute applications across one or the other dynamically as well through a portal. So how is this? And as I mentioned, I mean, both are live products. We have customers and we are offering services today. So evolution of the on-demand platform, as I was mentioning before, this cloud networking concept is something that we have started with Ethernet, but we are expanding across the portfolio. So this year we are adding internet access on demand. We are working on optical on demand. Optical on demand, we had an RFI running with vendors, with some analysts as well, and we are running a POC this year with one customer. We are working on that. We are also extending coverage, so this is available in Europe and Asia, but what we plan to do is enable intercontinental services, so really making this type of services seamless in terms of coverage and independently of where the termination point is. We are adding new public clouds, so as part of this proposition, we offer also cloud ports terminated today in Amazon and Microsoft, and we are adding new public clouds by the end of the year. And also in this area, SDN Federation is a focus. So we are being very active in MEF. We have initial releases of the East-West APIs, Sonata in particular, but we expect maturity and full availability with quoting and all the functionality by the end of the year. And this is when we plan to introduce that into our own APIs. So in terms of SD-WAN, we are also expanding geographically to the US and Asia. We are adding advanced functionality in terms of security and WAN optimization, but maybe more important, we plan to here, as part of the Stratos project, to add NFV functionality on top. So not just the basic VPN on-demand, connectivity on-demand, plus added services on top, like the traditional one, a virtual firewall, giving the possibility for our customers to select between different virtual firewalls that might be available in our platform. Okay, SDN Federation, we've been very active on that one. We did the first POC with AT&T in 2016. That was really the first demonstration of an inter-carrier SDN extension. In that case, it was really the full enabling of the service. So it was port reservation, circuit creation, bandwidth on demand, and we did that in 2016. Last year, we also, with AT&T and Orange, we ran a POC in MEF 17, where we used the initial release of the Sonata interfaces from APIs from MFLSO and demonstrating them in this type of environment. And now very recently, last week, we also did a POC with Verizon that added the bidirectional component, so really being able to do that from both ends and in production. So that's really all the activity that we are having here. And as I mentioned, we are following the MFLSO reference architecture. We focus on the APIs that deliver this East-West inter-carrier capability. at the end of the day, I mean, this is just extending automation beyond a single operator. Okay, and I will finish with the other two strategic initiatives I mentioned before. So Stratos is about building a unified NFV platform in Colt. Obviously, we already did some network virtualization that was tactical in the past. I mean, we had to do that to bring, for instance, SD-WAN very early in the market. So we deployed gateways that were virtualized. We have virtualized other functions from our packet network as well, but we didn't follow a consistent end-to-end architecture. So it was just the right time now to look at a proper NFV platform to support not only our internal infrastructure, the services that we have virtualized already, but also to support the on-demand proposition, adding these added value services on top of connectivity. So this is a project that we are running as we speak. We have an RFP ongoing with 3 different domains. And this goes from the CPE that is virtualized. So today, as part of SD-WAN, we already deploy a white box, a little server as a CPE in customer premise, but this is in a bare metal implementation, just running one function that is SD-WAN. What we are going to do as part of this project is that we will virtualize that CPE, and obviously we will enable through our NFV orchestrator the capability for our customers to not only instantiate SD-WAN capabilities, but also instantiate firewall functionality on the CPE, WAN optimization on the CPE. And this platform goes from the CPE and into our own infrastructure. So we will be deploying NFV infrastructure in our telco nodes or telco POPs in order to also deliver centralized services. Okay. And finally, the last one is this project I mentioned, Sentio. This is quite a new one, something that we have started this year. As I mentioned, this is trying to use artificial intelligence to add the next level of automation from a service management point of view, because I think this has been mentioned by other presenters. As we deliver this type of services, virtualized network services, we really need analytics and service management and service lifecycle to be as much automated as possible. So we also launched an RFI on this one, trying to learn, trying to see the use cases. We actually have the target to run a POC already this year. You see a list of use cases that we have identified. Fault prediction is one of the potential candidates for a POC this year. So really using artificial intelligence just to get really early notifications about when the network is going to break, as an example. But we have other use cases as well. And this completes our strategic initiatives, and it's maybe more long term, but as I mentioned, we plan to do a POC this year. So that's all from my side. I mean, if you want to see a video of our call on demand capabilities, you have the link here, and we have 1 minute for questions. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Well, I was wondering, when you mentioned that in 2016 or even later in 2017, last year, you performed a POC with AT&T and with Orange as well. What was the scope of that POC? Meaning that you mentioned that you tested the APIs of Sonata East-West,
yep.
But Sonata includes different features, at least, quoting, address validation, a lot of information. So all of them were inside of the scope, or just a couple of APIs or features? That's it.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk afterwards. Unfortunately, I didn't include the slide in here with all the details. This was a POC that we built with AT&T and Orange. In particular, the way we do it is we interconnected the networks. In our case, it was our production Ethernet on-demand network. We interconnected that with AT&T. In that case, this was in their labs. We had a business orchestrator on top that was Blue Planet. And then what we demonstrated was inter-domain Ethernet on demand being orchestrated between the two networks, and then also including a termination point in a public cloud. I think it was Amazon. We used Sonata API for East-West. I think we also used Cantata as well. But I mean, I'm happy to go through the diagram with you and explain what we did. But yeah, it was just to demonstrate the initial releases of MFLSO, and in particular Sonata, which is the East-West business orchestration level API. That was really the key one, and is the one that we are very interested in implementing by the end of the year, in order to allow us to talk at this level with other carriers and automatically extend this type of services. But yeah, it was Sonata. I think it was Interlude as well at the controller level, and if I remember well, Cantata as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, thanks.